It might sound crazy, but I have over 400 hours in Guardian Tales, and it's definitely one of the games I've played the most on the Play Store, and I don't regret a single minute of it. Of course, I also wish I had played many other games like it, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video, games that you won't regret spending 100 hours playing. So if you're ready to discover them, leave a like and let's get started. If your style is tactical RPGs, but you still want both a story mode and an online mode in the same game, let me introduce Sword of CONVALLARIA. You could say the game is split into two parts. The offline side is the story mode, which is really well done. You play as a chosen character and deal with a world full of conflict, politics and decisions that can actually shape the outcome based on your choices. But the game doesn't leave out its online elements either. There's grinding, gacha style characters, global bosses and several other online systems that are common in this type of game. And visually the game is simply stunning. With the popularity of the World Cup, a lot of football games have been popping up on the Play Store. Let's talk about one of them, a UFL. Honestly, there's not much to say compared to games like FIFA. This one focuses much more on an arcade style experience. It's not realistic at all and it's actually pretty easy to learn how to play. The best part is the online modes, and of course there's also a career mode where you can take any team from around the world and try to lead it to the top. The gameplay works really well and it's definitely worth it if you like football games. Usually we just want a game where we can jump in and see how far we can go, and that's exactly what Valhalla Survival is. This is a roguelike, but I'd say it's a more classic and straightforward one. The main goal is simple: survive 10 waves. The game has 3 characters which also act as the classes you can choose from. After that you'll face millions of enemies coming at you. Of course the upgrades you get along the way make everything more interesting. You might start with just a basic bow and end up with tons of effects and attacks happening all around you. Visually it looks really good and it also has several RPG systems. It's definitely worth playing. When it comes to strategy games on Android, you usually think of titles like Clash of Clans, but let's talk about a really cool RTS called War Legends. Skeleton Archer. The game seems to be inspired by one of the best strategy games ever made, Warcraft 3, so you'll find familiar elements like orcs and humans and even a campaign mode that is really well made, and surprisingly the game is a very well crafted RTS. Usually this genre works better on PC, but here it's extremely well optimized and very easy to learn and play. Besides the campaign, the game also features PvP modes like 3 vs 3 where you can play with your friends. Imagine a game that mixes MOBA with Battle Royale. That's World Eternal Online. First time I played it, there were around 7 characters, but it's been updated frequently and it probably has more than 15 now. You move your character like in a MOBA, but inside a battle royale match. You drop into the map, there are NPCs for you to defeat and level up your character, and your goal is to be the last survivor on the battlefield. It sounds simple in theory, but in practice it's very hard to balance everything. Upgrading your character, fighting enemies and still paying attention so you don't get eliminated. Maybe the best game on our list to play with a friend or even solo if you prefer. Let's talk about Smash Legends. This is a multiplayer fighting game where you choose from a variety of characters and try to take down your opponents, either by reducing their health or knocking them out of the map. The game has around 15 characters plus several maps and game modes that completely change how you play. Unlike many games on the Play Store, this one is very active with a lot of players online. It's also not pay to win since all characters can be unlocked just by playing.
Did that hurt?
If you don't play this game for its gameplay, there's another interesting reason that might get your attention. Let's talk about SNOWBREAK. If I only showed you the menu, you probably think it's just a generic RPG, but once you actually get into the gameplay, you realize it's basically an FPS, a shooter game. However, the female characters still follow an RPG style, and the progression system is also very much like a traditional RPG with grinding, weapons, and upgrades. The gameplay is really good, honestly one of the best in this style on mobile, but it's also a game that leans heavily into fan service, with most characters likely having swimsuit outfits. Solo Leveling is one of the most famous anime in the world, as you probably already know. But have you heard about this game inspired by it? Let's talk about Solo Leveling, Arise.
Don't mess with me. Focus on me.
The game basically follows the same style as the anime. You choose 3 characters, enter dungeons and defeat enemies to earn money and keep upgrading your team. The cool part is that if you've already watched the solo leveling, you'll probably recognize locations, story elements and characters, which lets you build your dream team. But even if you haven't watched it, it's still worth playing because of the gameplay. It's an action RPG / hack and slash with extremely smooth and satisfying combat, the kind of gameplay that never really gets boring. Soul Knight is one of the most famous roguelikes on the Playstore. The first game became extremely popular, but now let's talk about Soul Knight Prequel. The game has definitely improved in terms of graphics. It's still a roguelike, but now it has much more depth and character customization. For example, you can add up to 3 specializations to your character, turning an archer into maybe a mage or even a warrior with different kinds of builds. The game really mixes things up like that. Most of the time you'll be playing solo, clearing dungeons and collecting items. However, you can also play with other people. It's mainly a co-op experience for 2 players. Call of Duty Mobile has been around for quite some time and is actually one of the most popular games on the Play Store. But what about Counter-Strike? Well, for anyone who always wanted to play it on mobile, there is a version called Standoff 2. The game is very similar to Counter-Strike from the gameplay style, where you have to plant bombs in terrorist versus counter-terrorist matches. The way you win rounds, buy weapons and everything else is also very familiar. The game really shines in its ranked mode, but it also has quick matches for you to learn how to play. Basically, this is easily the closest thing to Counter-Strike on mobile. It might sound strange, but this game is both a survival game and an RTS. Let's talk about Northgard. The game has a campaign mode, but it mainly serves as a way to help you learn how to play and understand the different clans. The idea is to survive with a Viking settlement while often dealing with enemies who are trying to do the same thing as you. This is a game that also exists on PC with cross-play support. Even though it can be played offline, there are also online modes, and believe me, there are still a lot of people playing it. It's also worth mentioning that the Android version comes with all DLC included. A lot of people were waiting for this game and it finally launched. I have to say it really lives up to the hype. Let's talk about Off the Road 2. The idea of the game is simple. You need to earn a lot of money to buy more vehicles, including cars, boats and even planes. To do that, you'll take part in races and do different jobs like transporting wood from one place to another, for example. But the game does all of this really well. It features a huge open world for you to explore and a wide variety of missions to help you make money. A lot of players also enjoyed the multiplayer mode, which works really well in the game. It seems like we finally have an original Pokemon on the Play Store. Let's talk about a recently released game, Pokemon Masters. In the past, we had a bit of confusion with Pokemon games that didn't really feel like Pokemon Quest, but this one is apparently a turn-based RPG Pokemon game with a lot of Pokemon for you to collect, and of course several online features as well. The cool part is exactly that. Even though there are many similar Pokemon-style games out there, nothing beats being able to get Pokemon like Pikachu and many others and build your team. The game is very well made with several online features, and it might be the first Nintendo game in this format. The idea of a Ragnarok without pay to win sounds crazy, but honestly this game is showing a lot of promise. Let's talk about it. Technically, this is Ragnarok Origin, the original one that launched and became the most popular among all the Ragnarok versions out there. The problem is that a lot of players eventually quit because of the pay to win system. Now, it seems like this new server is shaping up differently. It's still the same Ragnarok with the same core ideas, but without pay to win, meaning you can actually progress your character without spending money. It still keeps the same vibe. You start fresh, choose your class, and level up by defeating tons of monsters. This is a new MMORPG that recently launched, and if you're looking for something truly new to get into, this might be it.
More incoming.
Its name is RF Next Online, and from what I found, it's actually based on an older MMORPG that shut down, and this is basically a new version of it, similar to what happens with some Ragnarok games. There's nothing too complicated here either. You create your character, choose one of the available classes, and the classes are actually quite different, which I really liked. Then you're dropped into a futuristic world full of crazy robots, where you need to level up your character and progress through the story mode. The game also seems to lean heavily into fan service here, with an action RPG style gameplay that feels really solid. Right now it's pretty hyped and has a lot of active players. A A lot of people look for online games where they can just hang out and do whatever they want. So let's talk about one of them, Drive Zone Online. I have to say this game is extremely complete. To give you an idea, it even has police and taxi modes that you can play. On top of that, there are plenty of cars to buy and of course lots of customization options. Another thing people really enjoy is its open world. The game also has a chat system, which is great if you want to make friends while playing. Overall, it's an extremely complete game. Now imagine an MMORPG that also plays like a roguelike. Let's talk about Dungeon Cross Relic Hunters. This game took a really long time to finally release, but it's here now and a lot of players have been enjoying it. There are several classes to choose from, and after that you'll jump into maps filled with other players. However, the gameplay takes place inside dungeons and other enclosed areas. The coolest part is that the combat feels a lot like a roguelike, where your goal is to survive as long as possible while defeating as many enemies as you can. You can play completely solo or team up with other players since it's an MMORPG. I honestly never get tired of saying that ETHERIA Restart is one of the most generic turn-based RPGs on the Playstore, but for some reason it ends up being incredibly addictive. It's not that different from many other games on the platform. You have your characters, an auto-style system, and a heavy gacha element to collect different units. But I think the real difference on what made the game popular is its gameplay style. You actually control your character in certain moments and attack enemies from behind. Another thing that really stands out are the characters themselves. There's no fan service here, just very well designed characters, plus a pretty solid story to follow.
Yeah?
Imagine a game in the style of Diablo but fully in 3D, where you enter dungeons and defeat every enemy you come across. Let's talk about HELLGUARD. Honestly, that already sums the game up pretty well. That's basically what you'll be doing. You'll start by choosing a class, and that's actually one of the game's strongest points since there are several different classes to choose from, which adds a nice variety to the gameplay. After that, you'll be exploring dungeons and defeating every enemy you encounter. What really stands out though is the online mode, since you can do all of this with up to 3 other players. The game feels a lot like Diablo but with a fully 3D experience. A cozy farming game just to relax. Let's talk about MORIKOMORI Life, a hidden gem on the Playstore. I have to say the graphics are beautiful. It really feels like you're watching an anime, both in the character design and the environment. The idea of the game is still familiar. You inherit a house from your grandfather and need to restore it while also planting crops and managing your farm. You also interact with the townspeople, basically NPCs around the city, but unlike many similar games, this one also has an online component, letting you cooperate with other players in different activities around the town. You can even end up making some good friendships along the way. When people think of card games on the Playstore, they usually think of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something similar, but let's talk about Chaos Zero Nightmare. I honestly don't know much about the story, but I've seen people say it's actually pretty interesting, even with some discussions around it. What really stands out though is the art style and how the gameplay works. Unlike other card games, this one is much more difficult, and it also includes roguelike elements that you constantly use to evolve your characters. Speaking of characters, there are several you can collect, and each one has the same HP system but completely different cards. I challenge you to install this game and play it for at least 20 minutes. I'm pretty sure you'll get hooked. Let's talk about Cozy Islands. It's been a long time since I last played this game, but I know it has been improving a lot. As far as I know, the main idea is still the same, helping a character build their own house, although of course it takes quite a while. The gameplay is all about gathering wood, collecting stone and other basic resources so you can slowly build your house. I don't know exactly why, but it's really satisfying to watch your house come together little by little. There are also plenty of NPCs for you to interact with now. It may not be a farming game, but it's definitely a really good building game. A game that had been highly anticipated for around 3 years finally launched recently. Let's talk about Crysis X. This is another open world survival game just like many others on the Playstore. However, there are several things that make it different. For example, it's much more intuitive when it comes to learning the game's mechanics. And there are also a lot more zombies for you to take down, which is great if you're into that. The open world is fantastic. There are cars, plenty of places to explore, and even gangs. And of course, one of the things people enjoy the most is playing online with other players. And this game has that too. Overall, it's an extremely complete game. A survival game that could easily pass for a PC title. Let's talk about Darkest Days. The game actually has an interesting story. After creating your character, he wakes up in a post-apocalyptic world, searching for his wife and daughter who have gone missing in a world full of zombies. Soon after, you meet other characters and end up having to fight a lot of zombies and even deal with other gangs. The game features a fantastic open world for you to explore, along with several online modes where you can play with other people. Honestly, the game is so good that it's hard to find any real flaws in it. A new game that's getting a lot of attention and it hasn't even been out for a month yet. Let's talk about DRIFTFALL. I mean, honestly, I'm not even sure what category to put this game in. Maybe it's a 2D action game or maybe it's a building game because it has a bit of both. The idea is to take your character and slowly build your boat piece by piece. Of course, enemies will keep showing up, so you'll need to earn some money to keep progressing, but none of that would matter if the combat wasn't so satisfying, and thankfully it really is. This is definitely the kind of game where you can spend the whole day upgrading your boat and taking down enemies. If at some point in your life you got addicted to a MOBA and now you can't stand looking at one anymore, let me introduce you to something different. Let's talk about Ancient Stars. If you were good at MOBAs before, you'll pick this up really easily because it's basically a mini MOBA. Unlike the more traditional ones, this game only has a single lane with just 3 characters on each team. That makes the gameplay much faster and more dynamic. There are a lot more fights, but matches also end much quicker. The game has around 15 to 20 characters and it recently received a solid update that added new characters and a new game mode. Now, like I said at the beginning, if you're tired of MOBAs, give this one a chance. And those were today's games, and if you want a part 2 with more games like these, just let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.